Well, we know a lot more about how difficult the kind of foreign interventions were that we undertook in Afghanistan. I think if anybody had said then that 9 years later we'd have 10 times as many men on the ground in Afghanistan and be looking at a failure rather than what then seemed a success, people would have been incredulous. Secondly, it's worth noting all the things that didn't happen. Of which the most important was the expectation that this would interrupt the process of globalization, that countries would turn back into national boundaries, that borders would become less porous. None of that happened. In fact, there wasn't even a hiccup in the process of economic globalization. There were huge changes at home. The creation of the Department of Homeland Security, big reforms to the intelligence agencies, big changes in the relationship of the policing function to the intelligence gathering function. These are all important and big and continuing. But this event changed us much more than the world, and that was already clear a year in. In terms of its long-term history, the consequences, I think, were principally two. One was that it turned us for at least a decade into a Johnny One-Note country, just focused on terrorism, and hugely important issues just didn't get noticed for an awfully long time. And the very related issue, of course, was Iraq. Somebody said recently that the U.S. Went into Iraq because of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And I think it's very, very apt, because the shock of 9/11 attack kind of suspended critical faculties in the United States. And this sudden tearing away of our illusion that we were a special country that was safe behind its two giant oceans and could never suffer the same kinds of threats that other countries take for granted. That got torn away. The U.S. was kind of in shock, and we went into what was an enormously, I think, really catastrophically bad war in Iraq that has changed the region, changed ourselves, changed our relations with allies, cost us trillions, and that was its direct result.